It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Well, we are in the final talks of our preparations to the Cape Town Cycle Tour, and when it comes to recovering from a road race, a road practice, it is super duper important and a very important component of your overall training plan when you are an avid cyclist. Now, myself just starting out, I'm here to grab everything I can from Ian as well as Mike, who is still here with us to answer some of my questions. And now we're putting the focus on our recovery. I found that, you know, during my last race, I was completely wiped out, and I kind of figured, okay, it was because of not, you know, nourishing myself properly pre, during, and post. But when it comes to recovery, what exactly does that entail? I'm going to start with you, Mike.
The two most important components of recovery is nutrition and sleep. And those are the two bases of recovery. Nutrition starts not after the ride, actually it starts before and during the ride. And we briefly touched on nutrition during the ride in the previous segment, and that is very important, and you touched on it briefly now, in that you dug a big hole during your ride, you were not ingesting enough nutrients during the ride. So the key is carbohydrates. You want to be ingesting carbohydrates during the ride, and sufficient carbohydrates. So we might talk about 60 grams per hour. If that is a little bit too complicated for you, that is roughly a bottle of carbohydrates every hour plus a small gel or a bar. That is what you should be aiming at to ensure that you do not get completely depleted during the ride. Not being depleted during the ride will enhance recovery after the ride. After the ride, then, carbohydrates is also the most critical macronutrient. Everyone always jumps on protein. Protein is also important. Protein, we would want roughly 20 grams of protein, but carbohydrate is the main nutrient that needs to be put back. Similar to a car using a lot of petrol or fuel, as soon as you've done a long road trip, you want to fill your tank up again, and that will help you enhance your recovery.
Okay, so making sure it is a combination of looking at what you put in your mouth, what you feed yourself, and the amount of sleep you get. Ian, earlier we touched on riders' etiquette, and I feel like it's so important, especially I'm thinking now with the cycle tour will be a big race, but often just when it comes to your normal rides and your training sessions, people tend to ride in little groups. As the rider, how can you be as safe as possible for the person driving their vehicle, who the road belongs to?
Well, you know, you need to abide by the rules of the road as well, and too many recreational cyclists think they're in the Tour de France and they ride in the middle of the road, and then they antagonize motorists like crazy. And the way to stay safe is, first of all, to have enough skill to be able to be aware of your surroundings, to be able to look around, look behind you. There's an alarming number of people, especially the newer cyclists, that aren't able to look behind to see what's going on, and they just indicate and go and then almost get squished. So how to stay safe is get the basic skills right, that you can look around so that you can, do things safely. Go with someone that can coach you on those, and a more experienced cyclist. But the main thing is not to ride in the middle of the road, to give yourself a little bit of a margin between the pavement and yourself, so that you have a bailout room if a car's coming close. And that's why being able to look behind is so important, because you need to listen to the tone of, all the sensors are going, you've got to listen to the tone of the car. You will develop a sense of how close that is coming to your side. And if you leave some space to the curb, then you can move out the way.
You've got a little bit of
slightly higher grade to time all of that, but with experience, you get pretty good at that.
Okay.
So that's one of the main things, and not to start shouting at motorists, because you must realize that you are largely invisible. And even when they see you, they don't always register, and they don't realize how fast you're going. They misjudge your traveling speed. So the bulk of the near misses and crashes and aggro comes from lack of understanding on both sides of how to manage the other party on the road.
Well, now, finally, being on the bike, I am cognizant of cyclists on the road, constantly looking out for them. And we've all seen the bumper stickers, wider than the rider. Now, as a motorist, obviously, especially if you live in the Atlantic seaboard or a place where people love to cycle, what advice would you give to the motorist to also look out for the cyclist? Or is that not the...
Just be patient. Just imagine that's your son, your father riding along there. You know, we can all get along. Yeah. If the cyclists are being really road hoggish, then, I guess you can feel free to share your opinions with them. But just remember, there is a legal obligation to give a meter passing space. not a layer of paint, and just play nice. You know, they're taxpayers. They always go like, oh, you cyclists. Hey, those cyclists also driving cars, also paying tax. They're also contributing to the road upkeep. Just let them do their recreational stuff. They're staying healthy. They're keeping your medical insurance premiums down, you know, because they so just be nice.
Just be nice.
Just be nice.
Okay, I'll definitely take that with me, and hopefully you will too. Now, I did say this was largely focusing on recovery. Mike, just to finish off, we've now finished a training session, whether it's for the race or just cycling for pure enjoyment. How important is stretching?
No, stretching is very important afterwards. Obviously, when you're sitting on the bike,
The celiposturpedic stretch, it's a mainstay of...
when you're sitting on the bike, there are several muscles that are actually shortened in that position. So getting off the bike, ensuring that you do a little bit of mobility work can certainly help you to both recover and help you prevent some injuries.
Okay, well, Mike, Ian, thank you so much for joining. I really appreciate everything you've shared, and I will certainly keep you updated with regards to how my training and progress towards the Cape Town Cycle Tour goes. But you can obviously stick around to your Feel Good Breakfast show, because leading up to the 13th of March, I'll definitely be sharing more of that journey.